Marriage Broker Auntie presents Behind the Scenes. This is an audio series documenting the lives of happily married couples who've committed to spending their every day building healthy relationships. Growing up, we've listened to countless stories that end with meeting your soulmate, getting married, and living happily ever after. But is that all to relationships? We're here to find out more. We hope to unravel marriage through stories of real relationships. I'm your host Priyanka Bharadwaj, founder and CEO of Marriage Broker Auntie, which is a matrimonial advisory and relationship coaching service. What you're about to hear is an unscripted conversation with a couple who've graciously come forward to share their relationship story.
Hi, I'm Smitha. I live with my family in Singapore. I work in sales operations with Dell Technologies, and I've been with this company for 2.5 years. My overall work experience is about 12 years or so. I've worked throughout my life ever since I got graduated, through marriage, through kids, and
Hi, this is Sukruth here. I'm an engineer by trade and by education, and 15 years plus of working, and now quietly settled in Singapore.
On today's episode of Behind the Scenes, we have Smitha and Sukruth. Smitha and Sukruth first met each other in Bangalore in 2001 when they were in the same engineering college together. Although they didn't start dating immediately, they've now been married for 10 years. Both of them are highly entrepreneurial, constantly working on interesting projects outside of work, all while raising 2 children. They currently live in Singapore with their 2 children, Avani and Advay, ages 7 and 4.
so we are engineering classmates.
Okay.
And although we were never in the common friends group during engineering, post-engineering, we were among the few people who remained in Bangalore. And so we kind of became a group of people who met more often. And that's when we got to know each other more. And yeah, that's kind of when we started going around. So when we met, in reality, is first year of engineering, but really when we started going out was post-engineering. Yeah.
Got it. And how did you guys decide to get married? How did the friendship lead to you guys getting married?
It's like you're in a pot, and like you're a frog in a pot, right? Like it slowly getting warm, right? And at some point you realize like you can't be in this same arrangement any longer, so then it is like time for getting married, right?
Okay, that's an interesting answer. I hadn't heard that one before. All right, cool. So you guys have been married for 10 years now. Can you remember 10 years ago what you guys liked about each other so much that you decided to get married?
So, as a personality, I think I'm very strong and dominant, and he was pretty much complementary to my personality. And all along, I did have a sense of wanting to have a control over my life, basically, even after I get married.
Like coming from a smaller town, of course, like she first of all had the thing of being a city girl, right? I mean that's the start of the things that were remarkable or important to me, right? Like of being independent, of being able to hold her own space with or without me, and being comfortable with my family, and the way I was brought up, and like taking people who are important for me as important for her as well. So I think all these things were realized over time, and I think that keeps going even now also. Yeah.
You told me what you liked about each other back then, but how about now? If I were to ask you what are 1 or 2 things that you absolutely really like about each other, what would it be? Is it still the same, or does the answer change?
The answer changes a little bit, of course. I mean, he was super patient when we met, and that was one of the reasons why I married him, right? And I do see that patience is wearing out right now. I'm probably wearing it out. But the thing is, we are still yin and yang, right? He still brings about a lot of complementary aspects of the personality. And as we are raising our children, I can see that come out very well. And that also helps the children get a very holistic development, right? Or an exposure, which is something that I appreciate. I'm very driven. I'm very motivated. I'm always on the go. Like, let's keep doing something. Let's keep ourselves busy. Let's go and explore something new. Whereas Sukruth is a little more, I would say, calm personality where he wants to take the time to relax. He wants to take the time to rest, right? And especially when we are raising children. And in the earlier days of marriage, of course, I would always find it annoying because if we went on a travel or a holiday, then I'd be like, let's go see 10 places in a day. And he'd be like, let's go see 2 places in a day, right? But then after having children, I see that how it benefits so much because I'm always on the go trying to push the children to their best of their abilities, learn something new, do something more. And when they are actually looking for that time to wind down or when they're looking for that downtime, he's there. And he brings it around very nicely in them, right? So he teaches them it's okay to do nothing for a while. It's okay to relax. Right? It's okay to feel down, and So all of that I think blends in very well as they grow up.
Okay. So what about you, Sukruth? What do you like about Smitha now? Has the answer changed from 10 years ago, or is it the same?
I think this one, like to be able to see her being able to function with higher and higher levels of stress and time pressure is really impressive. And I think that has motivated me at least to try to be more active and also try to inculcate that in the kids. And I think it's like I'm realizing it's fun to be more active. I mean that's something which I think I picked up in the past like a year or 6 months. Like there's always new things that we both evolve and find that through each other.
Absolutely. And like, what do you guys do as a couple to bond as a couple? Like, what kind of shared activities do you guys have to continue like keeping up that bond that you guys have?
So we did go through like a period in between where, kids were too young. We couldn't really spend much time alone with each other, like outside, right? So it would largely be just watching movies at home or maybe just spending some time in the evening after kids slept. And off late in the last, I think thanks to COVID, we kind of got the kids sleeping together in the same room. And so we kind of got some of our life back, right? So now we still do the same things, but then we go out for a movie after the kids sleep, or we go out for dinners or lunches at times and try to spend some more time with each other.
Got it. And are there any like hobbies that both of you share? Like, because I know a lot of people before they get married, they think it's very important to have shared activities or shared hobbies so that it's easier to get along. Do you think that is important? And do you guys have any such shared activities apart from going out for dinners or movies?
I think she strongly felt about that lacking before we had kids. I think our interests were like not aligning in a way in which we could spend time together. But then, like we always had travel, which was quite regular, and also like had enough time that it seemed like a common thing that we were doing. But I think once you have kids, then like kids become such a center stage that their activities and their meta activities and it's just unending planning just on that. So you just
got it.
Also, I feel is like we stop quibbling over what activity to do because we get so much lesser time now to spend with each other that it does not matter what that activity needs to be. Right?
I mean, yes, just a drink is also good enough.
Got it. So interesting. How did you feel at that point of time, Sukruth, when Smitha felt like it was important to align? I'm a little curious because I also feel that way sometimes, that it's important for us to have shared activities or like some alignment of interest somewhere so that, both of us are enjoying ourselves while doing something together. How did you feel about it? Did you think it was important or not?
I mean, it was. I mean, I did notice that it was brought up as a thing, but before that, I did not even realize that of a need of such sort.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the end, like living in India, I think is blessing in, or rather like a double-edged sword, right? Like the social part of it is just inundated that we are always out and about together, right? So
Right.
I mean, it's not so bad that you end up like in Bangalore, you end up driving in the car for like half an hour, 1 hour, and you just like if you're in a good mood, then you speak, and that's a lot better bonding than what you could do in like
Got
a
it.
coffee or something.
And like of all the things that you guys have done together, is there a favorite memory till date?
Travel memories are some of the best memories.
Mhm.
That's what we do go back to often.
Mhm.
And I think in the last few months, we've been remembering things that have happened 10 years also in the past, which had become a very rare thing.
I think it's again related to travel, but I mean, travel is a big part of it. But mostly a period of time when both of us were in the US.
Mhm.
Like I was still a student, but I had decent amount of financial independence in the sense that I had assistantship, so I didn't have to there was no. It was okay, manageable, and then she was working and like flush with cash as well. So that was not very far away from where I stayed. So I think that 1 year we had lot of memories, I think.
That's nice. All right. I mean, obviously, we know that marriage is not always, great memories and happily ever after. There are also like disagreements every day, like squabbles over like, trivial stuff. If on an average, if I asked you, like, what are things you guys fight about the most? Or like, even if you can't say in general, more recently, what are things you guys have fought about or disagreed on?
I think now it's not more about fight, but it's about some life event which you need the other person also to be part of. Like, say, for example, like it could be planning like financial independence or something like that, right? Like, like planning your finances or planning the kids. This one, right? Like, you want to do it together. To find the time and muhurtas to align for those is not the easiest, I think.
Got it.
So I think those have more causes of friction than like some.
Yeah.
Right, like,
We don't get into major fights anymore. It is these small squabbles. The good thing is either one of us picks up within a fairly reasonable amount of time that the other person is disturbed about something. And then we're able to talk through it, right? And one thing that has definitely helped, so I'm a very confrontational person. So if I see that he's upset or down, then earlier I would go and confront and see what's happening. Right? And I have learned over a period of time that, maybe there's a better way to address that and try to address it through different ways.
Got it.
But yes, like you said, a lot of it is around more about future looking and kids. How do you raise kids? If we definitely have different ways in which we think around raising kids, and that does become point of discussion or arguments.
Got it. It's interesting you gave me that answer because I think that is something that you guys even appreciate about each other, where both of you bring very different worldviews to raising children, but the fact that it also becomes a point of discussion sometimes means that your arguments could just be temporary till you kind of are able to see each other's point of view and find a middle ground. That's great. um, Normally when you fight, how would you describe your fighting style? Because I think every couple has a different fighting dynamic. How do you guys fight? You said you're confrontational, and when you confront, how does Sukruth respond?
So when I confront earlier in the past, I mean, he would try and think about, okay, what could be done differently or what needs to be thought differently, right? And I have definitely seen that change. If he does have a strong point of view now, that comes out strongly as well. So he calls it the mirroring technique. So if I get angry and yell, he will do the exact same thing just to show a mirror on how I'm behaving, right?
Right.
And that's most of the times that's when I sense it and I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I must be doing something wrong. And I try to back off and
Got it.
try and approach it a different way. But yes, I mean, I go all the way from, quietening down and not speaking about it and making it, like an elephant in the room to getting confrontational and trying to get it out to move forward, right? I think I go across the entire range, but then
What do you think has changed in the way you guys like fight or disagree? Like, has there been an evolution in the style itself, or like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think meditation is helping.
Who is meditating, you or her?
I'm trying, yeah. But I think both of us are trying to be like, we are trying to develop like mindfulness in one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it was just two of us, it didn't seem so bad to fight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I grew up fighting with my brother, my cousins, right? Like,
Yeah.
or my friends also.
Yeah.
Fighting was not something unacceptable as part of life. It was just,
Right.
another way of being yourself, right? Like,
Right.
but I think after having kids, it just seems very like Ramayana Mahabharata types, like some like raising your voice, like you can see the effect on their face.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
I think that's triggered a general need for inquiring, like of how to show your emotions better.
Got it.
And so it's in a way like I'm learning through interacting with them.
Got it.
And we are all hopefully getting better.
Got it. And do you think it was only the kids that helped you break a pattern that you guys had settled into, or have you guys consciously tried to sit down and say, okay, this is the pattern that we have when we argue, and this is what we can do to give each other space, or how have you worked on it? Have you worked on it at all, like consciously?
I mean, I think you do end up seeing some patterns, but it's too dynamic, right? Like you are in some moods at times, and then she's in moods at times, and then the situation is one dimensional, like it's hurt you, but clearly not something which the other person cares about, right? Like I think the spectrum is too wide.
Got it.
To go with those generalizations.
Got it. Okay. And I mean, clearly you guys seem like you have a handle of disagreements, and you at least now seem quite comfortable discussing it. But what do you think, if I were to ask both of you individually, what do you think is the secret for not letting some of your worst fights get in the way of building your relationship?
The one thing that I strongly believed in, I think even from the earlier days of marriage, right, and I kind of share it with people when the situation arises, is I always think about the one thing in him that tethers me to him, for which I'm willing to oversee or overlook everything else, right? And it's not about the one, it's not looking at it the other way around. That has always helped me, because and that realization, I think, grows only stronger over a period of time, to say I'm not perfect, neither is he. And we are two independent human beings with independent likes and dislikes. And we might merge in certain areas, we might not merge in the rest of the areas, right? That should not make us get into these disagreements or fights all the time, because we want to continue to exist. And going into a life with children, especially with children around us, I think that also becomes to a certain extent a large part of, wanting to continue as a family, right? So we always keep thinking of how do we continue progressing in the same direction rather than, locking heads with each other and trying to find our own ways.
Now, if you could go back in time and talk to your single self and tell your single self one thing about marriage that you didn't know when you were single, but now after having been married, what would it be?
It's basically a fork in the road, right? So we're talking about before the left or right decision, right? So
Exactly.
like always the FOMO is thinking of the alternative.
Correct.
Like what the alternate life could have been, right? So I think if I had to go back to the day before, like when the hypothetical day when it was decided, right? So I think I would advise just go with it, like the alternate life, like from whatever I've learned from looking at others, like who have taken that path, right? Is not for me.
And I think it's more of naivety, but then what I would have definitely told, and I did tell some of the single friends or relatives later who were getting married, is really marriage at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, whether you agree or not, is two families coming together, right? And if you go into it consciously knowing that that's what you're going to be managing, then I think it's a lot easier to take in marriage.
Interesting. Coming to our last question, okay? Maybe you'll have to think a little bit about this one, but we started with asking each of you to tell me a little bit about yourself. But if I asked you to tell me a little bit about the two of you as a couple, how would you describe yourself?
Hey, this is Smitha and Sukruth. We love socializing with people and having parties. I'm the outgoing person. I love making friends and calling people over, but then he brings the life into the party by, really making it awesome, right? In just having a good time for everyone, or making sure everyone has a good time around it. And we complement each other, and I think that kind of has stood in the entire conversation. We love complementing each other's personalities, and we try and make sure that we hold each other's backs as much as possible. And I think we'll continue to do that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I think having known you, that sounds like a pretty spot on description of the both of you. This conversation has been great. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a privilege to, have our own version of Adarsh Dampati.
And interesting to listen to each other's answers as well. Right?
Yeah. Sounds like you guys have never been to therapy, but yeah.
What I learned from my conversation today with Smitha and Sukruth is that two seemingly different individuals can still value their differences in a relationship. While complementary traits may be difficult to comprehend in the beginning, you may slowly begin to see how it broadens your perspective and helps you in building a richer life together. Over the last decade, Smitha and Sukruth have slowly discovered themselves and each other through marriage, parenting, high-pressure corporate jobs, and living in different countries. And as Sukruth said, none of us know what the future holds in store for us, but knowing that they have each other's backs gives them the confidence to keep forging ahead. I wish Smitha and Sukruth many more years of happiness and exploration together. Thank you for listening to Behind the Scenes. These conversations are available on the Marriage Broker Auntie channel on YouTube and Spotify. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already done so you can have access to future episodes as soon as they're out. Please do like and share these conversations with your friends and family. Much has been said about how we meet our partners, but very little about how we build relationships with them. So if you think this conversation could inspire someone you know, don't forget to share this with them. If you'd like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website marriagebroker.auntie.com, Auntie with an IE, to learn more about this project and the work we do.